Welcome to Level Up Your Resume. Here we'll be giving some resume advice and some critiques to help you land your co-op or new grad job position. So for the agenda today, we're going to be having introductions of myself and the speakers, and as well as giving some general resume advice, critiquing some of the resumes that have been sent in advance, and then some of the question and answers, with the priority being some of the questions that were sent in advance. And if there's time, you'll have the opportunity to ask additional questions as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, I am one of the executive leads here at the GDSC Conestoga. My name is Edward Boato. I'm in co-op currently for the Software Engineering Technology program, currently working at Geotab. And for our guests today, we have Catherine Bertrand, who is a recruiter at GSoft, as well as Danica Weiler, who is a software developer at Plum. So if you would like to take turns introducing yourselves, you can have a couple minutes to do so.
So yeah, my name is Catherine Bertrand. I'm a recruiter at GSoft. I'll start with a bit of background about me, and then I'll introduce the company if you don't know about us. So I'm a recruiter. I graduated in 2019 from a Bachelor in Business Administration, and I've been working in recruitment ever since. My last position was at engineering firm, so quite different from tech, but now I've been working in tech for a year and a half now. And about GSoft, if you don't know us, we're a product software company. We're based in Montreal. We have 3 different products: SureGate, Office Vibe, and SoftStart, and we're all in the employee experience expertise. Also, side note, I use French as a first language, so sometimes I look for my words, and it's quite late in the day, but yeah, happy to answer all of your questions either today, or if you want to reach me on LinkedIn after the meeting. Of course, I'll get back to you.
I guess I'll intro myself now. My name's Danica. I'm actually a Conestoga grad. I took software engineering technology, graduated in 2021. So I've been working as a software developer since graduating then, at the same company this time. While I was in SET, I did co-ops every term. So I did a lot of co-op interviews and a lot of different things, and then helped Susie and the co-op staff do some different co-op workshops on interviewing and resume building for that. Now I work at Plum primarily. That's my day-to-day, which ironically is a company that's trying to help minimize the use of resumes in the workforce to get jobs, and focus on people's innate talents more than their resumes. So it's kind of funny that I'm here in my head. Yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you. So I'll just go back to the slides. Okay. What do you think employers want to see in a resume that candidates often miss? Do you want to start?
Yes, I'll go ahead if you want. So I think the first thing is that I don't see a lot of adaptation of the resume to the job description. Sometimes I have a lot of information, but maybe not as relevant to the tech stack, for example. So I think it's important to really highlight the skills that you have that are linked to the job description. Also, again, on the point of adaptation, there's a big difference between a professional position versus an academic role. So sometimes I'll see students that have a resume with all of their projects, their school project, with a lot of information and a lot of their skills, but that type of resume is too long and too lengthy for a professional role. So as a recruiter for a co-op position, I like to see more straight to the point resumes. Also, sometimes people will forget to mention if the role that they had was an internship, a part-time role, or a full-time role. So it makes a difference when we want to evaluate your experience and have a better idea of your past position, your career path. You will go into that more details, I guess, later when we see the resumes, but sometimes I'll see that there's not a lot enough information about the results, the numbers, and the metric. So for example, you have a simple line of a responsibility, like you fix bugs and improve user experience. That's great, but that doesn't tell me much. But if you say, I fixed over 25 bugs in a 2-month period and I improved user experience by 30%. So it's kind of a different, and it better highlights your achievements and what you've done clearly in that position. Again, on making sure that it's clear and concise, to clearly state the tech skills you use in each position. So you worked as a software dev in X company, but which tech stack do you work with, which one that you have more skills with? So that's something that's sometimes missing. So now we've been focusing on what's missing, but sometimes there's stuff I don't want to see, and I think it's important to highlight them also for your security, and also that it's confidential information. So your full address, I don't want to see that. Just your city is fine. You don't want people going to your door. Sometimes people will share resumes with a lot of different people, so keep it to your city only. Your social security number, of course, your date of birth, your family situation. Sometimes I'll see that you're single, married with 3 children. This is too much information just for a resume. Same for a picture of yourself. We have LinkedIn for that. Keep that space on your resume for skills or other things. And finally, the full contact information of your references. So sometimes I'll see the people you work with, their phone number, their email. That's great, but if I need that, I'll ask them later. And again, it's more information that you don't need on 2 pages. You can put more relevant stuff on there.
Yeah, listening to Catherine, she covered almost all the points that I had like laid out here too. So I'm not really even sure what to add. The thing, not fully resume, but relevant to tech jobs, is if you're going to put your GitHub on your resume, assume somebody's going to look at it and actually have something there that's relevant and that you're proud of. Don't just have some like work in progress project that you've been doing just for yourself public. Make that private and make sure you're very proud of how your GitHub looks. Other than that, I could just reiterate exactly what Catherine was saying.
Great advice. Thank you. Okay, so next, what are your top, this may be repeated, but what are your top 3 tips for writing a resume that will get an interview?
Danica, do you want to go ahead this time?
Sure. I feel like you're going to have better information on this than me, but I think it's important to show a bit of your personality on your resume and not just have this generic resume. So whether it's using like words to show your personality or something like color, it's important to show yourself there. And yeah, I didn't write anything else for that.
That was my first tip too. We always see the same kind of format. Maybe the school suggests this, and I always see same thing. You were the same classes as your colleagues and you did the same project. So it's just the name that's different. So for me, when I see 10, 20 resumes that look the same, it's hard to really differentiate them. So yeah, please put a lot of personality in them. I like to see colors, not too much, of course, but something that's kind of bright is always good. I for myself and my family, I'm like the resume maker, so I always use the Canva. It's a great source of templates and it's free. So if you want to go there, I think there's a lot of great examples. I think still it's a lot linked to the previous question, but to always keep your resume to the point, use bullet points, not long text. We want to see like keywords. If you want to highlight some stuff that are more important, more a tech stack or type of project you want to put in bold, it's always good. Also, not all responsibilities are worth mentioning. So if you answered email, if you communicated in Slack, we expect that in a professional job. So keep that space to more relevant tasks. Make sure to use the right language and beware of acronyms. Sometimes in a company, you'll use a different acronym, but that don't mean much to an external point of view. And please, please, please check for spelling errors. If you have a big mistake in your first sentence, we'll see it right away. So that's the main 3 tips for writing a resume. But I have an extra tip that's not related to resume, but don't hesitate to reach out to the recruiter or the hiring manager on LinkedIn. Sometimes we have a lot of resumes, less message on LinkedIn, so you never know. You send that message to someone, and of course we'll try to take our time and to look at your resume maybe a bit more in depth. So take your chance. You never know, someone will answer you and craft a friendly message that again reflects your personality, and I'm sure you'll have a few people answering back to you.
Something I thought of as you were talking there was always get somebody else to read your resume before you send it off. You're the one looking at that all the time. Like, get a friend, a parent, anybody else to look at it, because they're going to see the nuances that you're able to ignore because you're the one who built it.
Yeah, it's great advice. It's like code review, right? Like you always think it's perfect, but then someone else looks at it and it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's nothing to take personal, but you know, sometimes people can see other things. Also, I thought that it was a good point that like you see a lot of the same resumes from schools. That's because the co-op instructors and coordinators, they're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of kids at a time. So they really only have this like template they have to go off. So just remember that with those type of people giving you advice, it's not always as black and white as it seems. They're just doing like what they can with the amount of people they have to deal with.
Great, thank you. Okay, so that was it for the advanced questions. So we can move on to the resume critiques. So the idea here is to look at what has been done well, what should be improved, and just get a general idea of like, would this resume get called for a co-op or new grad interview, and why or why not? Just so everyone's aware, the resumes have been anonymized. So your names, if you didn't remove your names, I have removed your names and your addresses and your phone numbers and so on and so forth. So don't worry about getting any strange messages from YouTube. Okay, so with that, I am going to switch my screen to okay. So first up, we have Anakin Cloud Runner. Some of our speakers have already entered some points here. So do you guys want to just speak to them and maybe highlight what you think?
Yes, so what I liked about that resume, the tech skills, it's really clear, it's at the top, that's what we see right away. So that's always a good idea. What I would do differently though is that I would put the experience first on top of the personal project. And for that role too, I wasn't sure if the person wanted to apply to a software dev position or something else. I see some experience in marketing. It's not a bad thing. We can understand your path, but maybe it's a bit less relevant to the position you're applying to. So we can find that information on your LinkedIn. It gives a lot of background about your path and what you did. But if you are applying to another type of position, I would just suggest removing that to make sure we're really focusing on your tech skills or your software skills on the resume.
Okay. Any other comments on this one?
No, I did get through a lot of them. This one, I just agreed with Catherine on most of the points. Just something I want to like add, because I know as a developer, and I have a lot of developer friends, that not all of us have LinkedIn like I do. But like I would say like 70% of the developers I know don't have LinkedIn. So if you don't have LinkedIn and it's not something you want to do, I would say keep that education there, just because they don't have any other source of getting it from you.
Yeah, good point.
So move on. So just so you're aware, this photo was actually the individual's face. I've just anonymized it to this image.
I gotta get laugh out of this when I saw this one.
Okay, any comments to begin?
I like the cartoon picture. I think it made it more personal. I will sometimes see it on the resume with the emoji kind of picture. I think it has personality, so I always like it. Honestly, this one I liked everything. There was nothing for a big red flag for me. Certificate, I like what it said with the dates and everything is really clear. We see the path. Yeah, I think this one is a great resume.
Yeah, I love the format of this one. All the space is really well used. It's really easy to skim through. I really like that it was actually like, it looks like there was linked to the Git repo since they were including their personal projects there, which I think is great. The only part that like kind of bothered me is the languages. Like those could just be like a list, because like those 5 dots on each one of them is not telling me anything.
Okay, great. Okay, so next we have, okay. Any comments on this one?
I like the paragraph about why me. I think you should put it further up the page. It was really great, and it showed again your personality, and we had a better understanding of what you're looking for. So put that up front. I think it's great. Always to put the expected graduation date. I think it's a good thing for recruiters too, because we see when you graduate. So sometimes when we don't have a position right away, we'll know once you graduate, maybe at that time we'll have something. So when we want to build pipelines for our recruitment, it's always a good idea to see when you'll be available for a full-time role. Again, with the examples at the beginning, I started with the numbers and making sure that it's clear on the achievements. That resume at that. Only thing I would change is there's a lot of different projects. I think you have enough experience to maybe focus more on that. So I would choose maybe 2 or 3 projects instead of the ones that were listed there. But apart from that, it was a great resume.
Yeah, to the project's point, when you put that many on there, like it's hard to talk to that many. So if you did get called for like an interview and you're talking to somebody, they might ask you about any one of these projects. And if you can't talk intelligibly to like all of them, it's not worth putting that many. I also like that there was volunteer experience placed under the experience, like a good point to remember that paid work experience is paid work experience, but volunteer experience is also relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, next. Okay.
I really like that this one and the last one had a couple of them too. They had like very measurable points in their descriptions of their experience. It wasn't just like, I answered emails and I used Git. It was like, no, I did these things and I had this deliverable success from it. And that's really better at framing what you actually did at that job for the person reading the resume. I like the technical skills area of this too.
Yeah, same. Only thing I would change is the summary. As again, it's missing a bit of personality, really straight to the point. But aside from that, same comments as Danica.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember all of them because I wrote the comments this morning. So yeah, this one, I didn't see any education or any diplomas. If you have them, don't forget to put them on your resume. Again, the responsibilities were clear. At the top, you have the contact info. That's always great. I would just put the skills at the top. It's what we want to see maybe first when we read your resume. So that would be my only comment.
Yeah, I don't know if this is true, but in my head, when I look at a resume, I skim it first and then go back and read. So having like the skills and that like summary at the top is really easy to get like a feel of what you're going to be looking for when you actually go and read the resume. So I agree with moving that up. And this is like a really experience heavy resume. So like it's really just two sections of the same thing that are separated for one reason or another. And it could just be one section and then with that other like summary and interest skills at the top.
Right. Let's go on. Okay. This one has a few pages, so start.
I was just curious before we get into this one, is this one that just maybe got more like messed up a little bit uploading to Google Docs? Like, was it this many pages when they sent it to you, or is this something that happened with upload formats?
It was sort of how it was when I got it. It looks like there's something cut off in the margin here. Mm-hmm. So I think that the first bit of advice would probably be to make sure that it has the correct margin when you send it.
Yeah. Yeah, the length of this one really bothered me. Like for junior roles and like co-op roles, if you can't fit it on a page, you probably have too much stuff there. Like get it down to a page. There's no way you have that much stuff that's relevant to the role. Yeah, so this one is just very long.
Just
yeah, exactly. Yeah, too many pages, and I think there's a way that you can put the information more precisely. So instead of the link and everything, put that hyperlink in the contact information. You'll save a lot of space there. Same thing for the skills. Yes, there's the bullet point, the little round, but there's also the category. If it's good, very good, put either or the other. Again, you'll save a bit of space. You've put your high school diploma. I think it's not maybe relevant for a professional position. Once you graduate university, that's what we're looking for. We don't really care when you graduated high school, maybe for a student job, okay, but not for that type of role. And again, it goes back to too much text, so that brings to a lot of pages in your resume.
I did like the skills section on this one, that it is labeled in like good, very good, and how confident they feel in themselves in these things. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of a nice way of making that readable.
Great.
I actually got my one co-op job by giving somebody like a paper resume. So like keep in mind, if you are printing out one of these and you are going to like an in-person networking event, if you're doing hyperlinks, make sure you change that for the printed version.
Yeah, that's good to know. Is it still, I don't know, Catherine, as you might know, in HR, do people print them out still?
I participated in the hackathon last week and I received a few, but it's not the best for me because once I want to send them to managers, I don't have a scanner at home. So I just email the student and ask for a PDF version. So I think it's always best to have it virtual. And yeah, I think it gets lost. And again, if you've put too much information on it, you don't know where it will end up. So I think it's preferable to send it virtually.
Great. Okay, so next we have, okay, any comments on this one?
This one I like, pretty, again, straight to the point. The About Me section, I liked it. For the address, I addressed it earlier, but just put the city, I think it's fine. Only thing, it's just a formatting, but for the education part, the two different type of diploma were written differently. So just make sure that you keep the same kind of format throughout your resume. And that's pretty much it.
I liked the project section on this one. Like it was just the one project, but I kind of like the format of like saying technology, use a description and then like a bit more about it. And the other comment I had, the area of interest, like that seems like that could just, it doesn't need to be there in the bottom left-hand corner. It just, if you're like slightly tailoring this like to the job, they're going to get to the point that you're interested in whatever you're applying for. So this isn't really a necessary use of this space. And the other thing was like adding the actual dates to the second course there. Catherine, your opinion, would it be better to put the one they're working towards before the one they've already achieved for education?
Yes, good point.
Great. Okay. So let's go on. Any comments on this one?
This one I had to like look at for a while. I liked the bold letters. I just said that just like as an idea to give other people that capitalization and bolding and your highlighted skills can like pull words out for people. So that's a good way to accentuate something. I found the highlights of qualification, like there was just like too many things there. This might be like maybe a master list and you don't actually like submit this whole list to whoever you're applying to. But like having like a max of like 6, even that's kind of a stretch, is like good for highlights. Other than that, they're not highlights anymore. They're just information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. I always like when there's a short sentence to say what you're looking for. So interested in co-op opportunities starting May 2023. It's clear. It sets expectations. So that's something, if you're looking for a co-op position, if you put that on top, it makes a lot of sense.
Great. Okay, so next.
This one I like a lot, honestly. Only positive comments. It's clear, it's concise. The description of the skills are there. The education is clear. The project still, it's all relevant. So yeah, nothing to add. The only maybe comment is it's kind of a format that I often see, but it's not a bad format. I think it's pretty good and it goes to the point, so that's fine.
Yeah, I'm the same. I looked at this one and I just really liked it. The points and each job description are very relevant and easy to get through. Like it's good.
Great. Okay, so moving on.
I found this one had like a lot of white space. Just like I said before, getting things down to one page could definitely be done in this case, and it'd be beneficial to have just the one page to present.
Same. Also, it's repetitive. The professional summary, there's like the same sentence repeated twice, and in this case, you repeat again the text tag. So I think it's too much information. Something that I think is a good thing to note is that all the last positions were contractor roles. So this is a resume, in my opinion, that will benefit of having just a sentence saying what you're looking for, co-op, full-time. If you're looking for a contractor role too, again, just because sometimes company will say, oh, you always add contractor position, so maybe that's not the type of role for him if it's a full-time role. So just really state what you're interested in and what you're looking for.
Great. Okay, next up.
Yeah, this one again, one page, really clear. And the only thing is I didn't know the name of each position. So the companies were clear and the location, but what was the role is not there. So it's important to add that. And for the skills, I will just put the tech skill of before the soft skills. Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, like my comment was just maybe swap the skills in the professional summary, like move that to the side. And I'm assuming that the contact information was usually at the top left-hand corner there, but it's just like wiped because of this whole process, but just always include contact information if that isn't the case.
Sure. Okay. Okay.
This one is kind of similar to the one we saw not the right before, but before that, again, with the summary and qualification are kind of repetitive, and also the format change. So we see at first there's a policy that use, and then at the second page is different. So just make sure that it's still consistent throughout the resume, because we'll see it right away that it's not the same.
I didn't love the whole responsibilities section and like the layout of the like experience. I didn't think any of the bullet points were really super helpful in anything. And a lot of the jobs were like the same bullet points. So having something a bit more personal, maybe even just like one measurable sentence for every few of them, like something just a bit more meaty there. Like those last two are the exact same experience. Like those don't need to be like that.
Yeah, and since this one is we see that it's freelance experience, maybe just put all the responsibilities you've done for the different contracts, and you can put the companies with the date, and that will just like you'll save one page at least with just by doing that. So sometimes if it's similar or really the same type of responsibilities, you can put that together, and it will be clear enough for the recruiter to see.
Okay.
This was one I really just liked too. Even it being on 2 pages didn't bother me because the second page was just projects, which I liked. And yeah, I didn't mind this one. I think this one would have been beneficial to have like maybe GitHub repos or stuff, just because there is so many projects there that they chose to include.
Yeah, just for my side of things, for the technical skills, I just didn't see why there was a front-end technologies, programming languages, and framework different. Maybe it's always worded, but just one section would be okay too for the programming language and the tech stack. But that was my only comments. A lot of the description were clear, relevant achievements. Yeah, it's great.
Okay. Great. Next up.
I didn't get to this one, so this is gonna feel like I'm just looking at it and figuring it out now.
Good. So yeah, again, the description at the top, the summary is repetitive with the skills listed below. And for each of the skills, particularly for the programming languages, like we saw maybe in previous resume, just put the level of proficiency. So either with the dots or with the in parentheses good or like strong, anything, so we know which one of those you have more experience with. Because on the second section, the experience, we saw all the different positions, but we don't know the tech stack in each role. So that's something I would add. Again, for the education, 12th grade, it's not necessary for that type of role, and also it gives a hint on your age. Like some people will know when you graduated high school, they will add a few years and will be able to know how old you are. So that's just for me, remove that. It's not necessary. And for the certification, we didn't have any dates, so we don't know when you completed them.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, this one I like the objective at the top, really to the point. A lot of qualification. We mentioned it in previous resume, but it's not a highlight if you have 12 bullet points. So choose maybe the one that are more relevant to this specific position. And aside from that, I think the rest was pretty good information. Again, with the project, maybe choose 2-3 project max, and add the link to GitHub is always a good idea.
Great. Okay, so I think that these are the ones that came in earlier. There's a few that came in later, so I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at them yet, but maybe we could just do a quick review since we have time. What do we think of this?
This one, I'm not a fan of the books for the experience. I think it makes it less clear.
Yeah, also, if you are applying to like a bigger company that doesn't use a recruiter as like its first stage and uses a bot first stage, like it's not going to get past it.
Mhm. You're right.
Oh, that's good to know.
And yeah, I think we'll maybe say the same things that we said before, but we're still missing a few information in the responsibilities. Just a one-liner, it's not enough info for us. Yeah, and put your LinkedIn at the top if you have one. Why keep it at the end of it after the hobbies? I think you should put the yeah, the dog did not like this resume for sure. Yeah, I think that's it will be repetitive with what we said before on previous resume.
Perfect. Okay. And this one, any thoughts?
Yeah, so the career objective at the top is great. The projects, if you have only one, just remove the S, but if just one project, it maybe this would beneficiate having a link. It's not speaking a lot to me.
It's just not even like having like a title or anything really with that project too. It reads a little funny.
Mm-hmm.
For the education part, I'm not sure of the description below the diploma. As it's not something that's really niche, so I think we have a good understanding of what's the program and what type of skills you can get from going to that school. So I think if you want to remove some text to have less pages, that would be a great way to gain some space.
I like the inclusion of awards there, but it would be good to have years with all of them, so know that as well.
True. And if you have a website or something of a blog, I'm always curious, so I like to click on those. So again, make sure that it's something that you're proud of and that you want recruiters to see. Make sure it's still professional. But I've listened to a lot of different type of DJing music in my resume reading. I went on blogs, so just make sure that people do click on those links. So that's just my advice.
Okay.
This one, the skills, I think it's too much text. It could be a bit shorter, more straight to the point. And text skill, again, I like when they're at the top.
This one I noticed is like none of the other ones included it like outside experiences. Like this has like salad tender and kitchen chef. I personally kind of like the inclusion of this because I think it is a good way to show that you do have other work experience, other work ethic, and other relevant skills. Like you could gain a lot of different like interpersonal skills and soft skills from jobs like that. So if you are maybe lacking like that like technical job experience, like don't be afraid of including like one or two of like these kind of jobs because it does give relevant information too.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Only thing is, as you get more experience, you don't need to keep those in a few years. So just adapt it to where you're at in your employment experience.
It's kind of like the high school thing. Like you put your high school education on when you're like applying to jobs at like 16, 17, 18, but you don't need to do it anymore. It's the same thing once you have that spot filled again.
For sure. Yeah.
There's a very long description on the project. Like that's very long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not going to be personally invested enough in reading that to actually get through that.
This is the type of resume, like I was telling at the beginning, that speaks more of an academic resume maybe than a professional one. So if you're applying to a research position or something, maybe it makes sense. But for a co-op position or a full-time role, oof, I don't have time to read that much text. So really keep it short, please.
Sure. Okay. Let's go on.
Good. Again, summary. It's not a summary if it's half of your resume, so keep it short to the point. Again, adapt it if you need. That's always good. The education, I see just a difference in the type of format. So one is in like all caps, the other isn't, to just make sure that it's coherent throughout the resume.
Also, like I can probably get there, like inferring that 3.1 is the GPA, but an 8 out of 10 is also GPA, but making that clear and having the distinction there is key, or else it's just lost information.
You're right, because I didn't get that. Professional experience is there. Again, just make sure the format is makes sense throughout the resume. Sometimes you'll put date like just 21, again 2019, so it's too different. We see it right away. And certification always is good. You've put dates there. Yeah.
Great. That's in this one.
Yeah. This one, I think it's a good idea to put what you're looking for at the top, since you had previous position as a senior engineer. So we're pretty clear with the type of roles you're interested in. And in that same way of thinking, I would put the education first between the professional experience, just because if you're currently studying and you had like senior position before, we have a better idea to where you're at and your career path and what are the next steps for you.
Yeah, this one looks like it's just like upside down with the experience, just flip it around. The most relevant experience at the top, not the bottom. And this also feels like one that would be beneficial to have like less like duty driven points and more like goal driven points. So less of the I study correlations from senior engineers to learn and grow professionally, and have something like I did X project, which helped the company accomplish X goal or something instead, and just concise those things down a bit.
Okay. Any other comments?
A lot of spelling errors, so this is definitely one that would benefit from having a peer read it.
For sure. Okay, and I think that we got through all of them. So, perfect. Perhaps you can go back to the slides. So, I took a highlight of some of the questions that were sent in advance. So let's see. The first question was, if I'm not proficient in a programming language that is required on the job ad, should I address that on the resume?
In my opinion, no. I think you should focus on your strengths and not your weaknesses. But if you do have experience with a similar language, so for example, in my company, we're looking for a C# developer, but if I see Java on your resume, it makes sense. Same thing with all of the JavaScript frameworks. Usually tech recruiters, even though we're not devs, we are aware of similar languages. So really focus on your skills and not what you don't know.
Yeah, especially in like junior roles and co-op roles, it's not so important to know a specific programming language. They just kind of want to know that you want to learn and that you're willing to learn, and you're willing to sit there and ask the questions that you need to be able to learn it.
Okay. So is it more important for a co-op student with no related experience to focus on showing transferable skills?
Yes, if you have projects that you can put on your resume, and again, adapt it to the job description. If you were asking for React, for example, and you did 2 school projects with React, highlight them, put the link to your GitHub. So it happens when we're looking for a co-op position. Well, sometimes hire first year, so we don't expect you to have previous experience. And also same thing for maybe other type of jobs. So we saw them on a few resume. I think it's great if you can add a few of them and just highlight what you've had with different types of position in the past that can be reused again on a more professional job.
Yeah, like soft skills and all those transferable skills are like super important. So if you don't have anything you feel is relevant, it's definitely good to show them. Whether that is like even just like your soft skills, like if you feel like you're a really good team worker, like you can find a way to highlight that, and that's important too, because it's good to remember that going into these jobs that they know your experience level, they know what experience level they're looking for, they're not expecting you to know everything.
Okay. Next, should I keep my previous experiences on my resume even if they're not relevant to the job?
We kind of addressed this in the resume critiques that like, yes, if you have nothing else actually to put there, but as you grow in your roles and grow in your jobs, like you can cut that out.
Okay. And so I have several years of previous software development experience. Will I still be able to get new grad positions?
That one was kind of tricky for me because if you have experience, why not apply to intermediate roles? But yeah, if it's clear in your statement and that you just graduated from a college or something, put it first so we know what you're looking for. But usually, yeah, if you're qualified for the position, we'll consider your resume.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't come up too often that people really don't interview people or don't bring them in because they think they're that overqualified. I think if your resume timeline lines up to what you're looking for, what they're looking for in that role, I don't see why it would stop them from bringing you in.
Great. And finally, is automated resume tracking software commonly used? And if so, what is the best way to get past it?
The famous question. I think it depends on the company. All ATS or most of them comes with something that reads their resume. So in my experience, since we're not Meta or Amazon, so I don't get 1,000 resume each week, so I'm able to read them. But I'll still use the reading function of the ATS because it will highlight me the best candidate for that job. So I will look at those resumes first, but it doesn't mean that I'm not looking at the others. It's just that if I want to be more I will better use of my time, I will look at those first because from what the system is telling me is that it's more relevant. But sometimes resumes get 0% and it's not possible. It's just that the format isn't the right one for the role. So with us being a smaller company, we're still able to get through resume. But if you're applying at bigger companies, I think you should use the same kind of keyword that is in the job description, the same skills, making sure there is no spelling error, of course, because the ATS will not be able to read it. If you put images or logos instead of words, the ATS can't read it. So if you know React, type React, don't put the little React logo because it won't show in the ATS. And also make sure to pick a common font because sometimes I will open resumes with the PDF reader and it says I cannot read them with the type of font. If I can't, the ATS can too. And again, we saw an example earlier of a resume with a box around it. It won't be able to read it. So that's, I would say, the main thing. Maybe Danica, since you're more of an expert in that sense, maybe you know a bit more.
Yeah, they do fine with columns. They do bad with tables. Don't use tables. If you need to split up, if you're doing like a traditional Word doc kind of thing, like use columns, not tables. That's the best way. Hit those keywords, like she said. just on my own curiosity now, Catherine, because you're actually somebody who's using like an ATS day to day, and like I spend some of my time writing integrations for ATS stuff with the company I work for. What are the different like features? Like you made a point of saying like you'll use it as like reading, and I know other companies like use it as a complete elimination process. So like what is different ways that companies could use an ATS, just so people know?
Yeah, the first thing is, for example, I see all my candidates and the ATS will put one that match more of my job description up first. So we'll see like Danika's name with 94% relevancy to the job description. So first, when I open my ATS and I'll try to look at resumes, it will show that to me. Only the other stuff that is really a good thing to use, and not all ATS are good with that, is for searching for candidates. So if I have I don't know, a data scientist role and I haven't posted one in a while, I will look through the ATS, write those keywords, and it will pop up some resumes to me. So I will reach out to all candidates even though they're not looking. So sometimes you apply to a job, as I mentioned, you said in your resume you're graduated in 2023, and now it's the time I open your resume. I received it 2 years ago and I want to reach out. That's the kind of stuff I would do with the ATS function. But it really depends. Some of them are really intelligent, some aren't. Sometimes we cannot trust them, so we'll still need to do the manual work. But of course, making it ATS friendly is always the best idea, because you'll be able to send it to different companies that use the ATS differently.
Something else, if you are thinking the company uses like a ATS and like uses like a software tracking company thing like immediately and uses that for elimination, like what you can do is there's websites out there that like mimic it. You can't guarantee it's like a one-to-one with the system that they're using, but you can paste in the job description, you can paste in your resume or upload your resume and see how that's going to like translate to the recruiter who's going to be looking at it. So there are websites that can help you with that to see if your resume is compatible.
Great. So that's all for my questions. Does anyone have a question before we go? Just unmute yourself.
There's one in the chat.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I plan to bridge from a diploma program to a degree program in the future. Is there an appropriate way to reflect this on my resume?
So you mean that you have like just to make sure, I'm not familiar with the Ontario's maybe way of education. So if you have like a shorter diploma and you want to move to a longer one and you want to reflect that change, you can say something candidate for X type of program. So a candidate for a master's or something, that could be right, same way of wording it. You can put it in your summary that you're applying for that diploma in X amount of months. If you have something particular on your resume and you want to highlight it, just put it in a sentence at the top, and I think people will read it. It's at the top of your resume. So that would be my advice.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, great. So
there's one more question that just popped
Oh.
up.
Okay, so in one of the critiques of the resumes, you mentioned that some of the experience shouldn't be included because it doesn't have a lot of things related to a developer position. As a second year, I don't have more to add in those spots.
I think like there's a difference between like filling and like giving good information. So whether it's like volunteer, other jobs, or anything, if you can still get like, you still want to include experience, but it's not bad to, I'm not sure which one you're referencing, so it's harder to say specifically, but it doesn't have, the first resume we did, okay.
Okay, I know what you mean. It was, my point was, since it was more information related to marketing. So that's what I saw in your resume. If you're applying to a dev position, you don't need to put that information about your marketing experience. It's not a bad experience. You can just put the title and no responsibilities, so we know that you have that experience. But honestly, if you just remove your 2 marketing experience, that would be a great resume with enough information to apply for a dev position. But if you want to showcase all of your experience, it's really up to you. You can do both. But if you have, I don't know, volunteering experience, like Danica said, if you worked on a personal project, you can put that instead. It really depends. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, everyone. That's our time for today. Thank you so much to, oh, is there another one?
No, just thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you to our speakers and thank you for everyone for coming and for sending your resumes. I hope everybody learned something. I know I even learned some stuff even from some of the other people's resumes for sure. It's always good to see what other people are doing and what's good and what's bad and what we can all improve together. So good luck out there and thank you very much. Hope to see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.